Raffaele Panserti, who was a local registry office clerk. The marriage wasn't easy at the start, and Leonarda even accused her own mother of putting a curse on the couple, as her parents had not approved of her choice of husband. The couple moved to Panserti's hometown of Lauria in 1921 to start a fresh life, which would eventually be unsuccessful, as Leonarda was imprisoned for fraud in 1927. Upon Leonarda's release, the couple decided to try anew and moved to another village, Laestonia. This was another ill-fated decision, as their relatively new home was destroyed by an earthquake in 1930. As it turned out, however, the third time was the charm when the couple moved to Careggia and Leonarda opened a small shop. Here the pair settled in well, and Leonarda was respected locally as a doting mother, and also as a kind and considerate neighbor within her community. In total, Leonarda Cianciulli was to have 17 pregnancies during her marriage to Raffaele. She lost 3 of the children to miscarriage, and 10 more tragically died during their early lives. Infant mortality was much more of a problem in the Western world then, in comparison to that of today. It was due to these factors that Leonarda was incredibly protective over the brood that she had. This protectiveness and the fears that pervaded underneath it were often fueled by Cianciulli's faith in superstition. She would often attend fortune tellers, and it is said that she took a few of these insights extremely seriously. On one occasion, Leonarda was told that she would be lucky enough to marry and have children, but that all of the children would die. In another equally devastating prediction from a different teller, she was told, "In your right hand I see prison, in your left a criminal asylum." These disturbing superstitious predictions are said to have had a significantly negative impact on Leonarda Cianciulli's life. In 1939, rumors were spreading around the little Italian town that Giuseppe, Leonarda's favorite son, and some other young men, were about to be called up to the war effort. This was not to be the case as far as Cianciulli was concerned. She couldn't risk losing her favorite son to World War II. After some deliberation, Leonarda Cianciulli came to a conclusion that was somewhat steeped in her superstitious beliefs. The answer to her and her son's problems was human sacrifice. Luckily, being a practitioner of the magic arts herself, the victims would come to her for help. The first unfortunate to be dragged into Leonarda's web was Faustina Setti. Setti was a local woman who had been a lifelong spinster and had come to Cianciulli in the hope that she could help find Setti a husband. Cianciulli informed Setti that she had indeed been successful in her search, and that a suitable man was awaiting her in Pola, a nearby town. She also persuaded Setti to write letters beforehand to relatives and friends. These notes, stating that everything was fine, were then to be mailed on arrival. On the day of her scheduled departure, Faustina Setti called on Cianciulli and was promptly given a glass of drugged wine, which was duly drunk. After the wine had its desired effect, Leonarda murdered Setti with an axe and then dragged the body into a closet, where she cut it into 9 pieces, while collecting the blood in a basin. Here is what happened next in Cianciulli's own depraved words. "I threw the pieces into a pot, added 7 kilos of caustic soda, which I had bought to make soap, and stirred the whole mixture until the pieces dissolved in a thick, dark mush that I poured into several buckets and emptied in a nearby septic tank. As for the blood in the basin, I waited until it had coagulated, dried it in the oven, ground it and mixed it with flour, sugar, chocolate, milk and eggs, as well as a bit of margarine, kneading all the ingredients together. I made lots of crunchy tea cakes and served them to the ladies who came to visit, though Giuseppe and I also ate them." There are reports that Leonarda received 30,000 lire in life savings from Setti, though these are uncorroborated. The next victim to meet her untimely demise at the hands of Cianciulli was Francesca Sovi. Sovi had been seeking help from Leonarda in finding work. This, she was soon told, had been successful, and she was to be recruited at a school for girls in Piacenza. Like SETI before her, Sophie was also convinced to write out postcards and letters to friends, this time from Caregia, outlining her plans and intent. The similarities didn't end with the postcards and letters, sadly, and Sophie also visited Cianciulli for a glass of drugged wine before she set off on her journey. Like SETI, Sophie succumbed to the drugs and was finished off with the axe, before her blood was also collected. This blood then became the crunchy center of another macabre cake. Yet again, Cianciulli was said to have received a substantial amount of currency from her victim before she died. The third and final victim in this dismal scene was Virginia Cacioppo. Cacioppo was a former soprano who had supposedly sung at La Scala. The muse that Leonarda used was the same successful one that had been used before. She had found Cacioppo work, this time as a secretary, to a mystery impresario in the city of Florence. Virginia Cacioppo was told not to discuss the matter with other people and came to meet Leonarda on the day of departure just like the others. And just like the others, she was slain. The same drugged wine, the same hacked body. Then Cianciulli added this in her own words. She ended up in the pot, like the other two. Her flesh was fat and white. When it had melted, I added a bottle of cologne, and after a long time on the boil I was able to make some most acceptable creamy soap. I gave bars to neighbors and acquaintances. The cakes, too, were better. That woman was really sweet. From this crime, Leonarda Cianciulli reportedly received an assortment of jewels and 50,000 lire, substantial funds for the time. It was this last murder that was to be Cianciulli's undoing. Cacioppo's sister-in-law wasn't at all convinced by her relative's sudden disappearance, and had seen her entering the home of Cianciulli. After the sister-in-law gave details of her account to the local police superintendent, Leonarda Cianciulli was promptly arrested. Upon being taken in for questioning, Leonarda confessed immediately to all her crimes, giving clear detailed accounts of her murders. In 1946, the unrepentant Leonarda Cianciulli was tried for murder, in front of the court in Reggio Emilia. She was found guilty and sentenced to 3 years in a criminal asylum, and 30 years in prison, effectively making the psychic's vision an accurate one. In her left hand a criminal asylum, in her right, prison. Leonarda Cianciulli died in Pozzuoli Criminal Asylum on October 15, 1970. The cause of death was cerebral apoplexy.